name is Arlene Hunter. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Bonita Springs. And today is the first event of our Alta Planning Design Group workshops. We will have a series of 3 events, but today is our kickoff. And we're going to have the opportunity to get the look and feel that citizens, business, and property owners are interested in seeing in a wayfinding trail, separated bicycle pedestrian pathways, and what that looks like and what that feels like in Bonita Springs. There'll be lots of opportunities to look at designs, what other communities have used, and to give feedback on the wow factor that we want to see that really shows and showcases our city.
We're here for the kickoff meeting for our new bike path project on Cherry Street. I'm very happy we have a lot of residents here to give their input, because we want to know what the people would like to see with these new bike paths. And we've hired a world-class company, Alta, to design this for us. They've done projects all over the U.S. and some worldwide, and their touch on this will definitely give us a higher class and kind of propel us to the forefront in these projects nationwide. And this project's going to improve connectivity for pedestrians, bicyclists, joggers, people pushing baby carriages, just to get more people out in the enjoying nature. And it's going to connect to Old 41 downtown, all the way up to New 41, and eventually it's going to branch out and cover the entire city.
Again, good evening. My name is Arlene Hunter, and we're very excited that you're here. This is to kick off our series of workshops this week with Alta Design. I did want to make a couple of quick introductions and go over a little protocol with you all first as we begin. First off, I'd like to introduce Councilman Amy Caramba. If you could wave. Thank you, Amy. And then also with us, we have the chairwoman of our Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, Sarah Baker. Thank you, Sarah. Some of you might be aware we have Florida sunshine laws, and most likely a lot of the things we're going to see and talk about today are going to be rediscussed during city council meetings and bicycle pedestrian committee meetings. So they're kind of here to observe, to partake and enjoy, and communicate with you all, but they're going to probably reserve the majority of their comments since they're going to be voting items that are going to come in the future. So just want to make you all aware of that process. I also have with me Mike Feeney. He's the Public Works Director, and he's... And as well as we'd like to thank our partners from Lee County who joined us this evening. Lee County DOT is here to offer their support as well and gather more information and feedback. So thank you for joining us. We did have a special guest here too, Kat Lushane. I'd like to thank her because part of the projects and the excitement of things you're going to see this evening is all based on a very generous land donation received from her in memory of her husband. So we really appreciate that as well. So thank you, Kat. Appreciate it. So again, this is the start kickoff evening of 3 more days of Wednesday and Thursday. There will be opportunities still for individual time. If there's any office hours that you need to have individual time with Alta, they'll be able to do that with you. They're going to be working right here in this room. And then we'll conclude on Thursday evening with a wrap-up session and findings. We're hoping to come back in mid-April to the City Council meeting in April with some design drawings and some real meat and potatoes on things we can see for the council to move forward on. We're very excited about the funding opportunities we're putting together for these projects, and we're looking forward to having a great kickoff evening. And with that, I will turn it over to Alta Design to introduce their team.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Davis with Alta Planning and Design. I manage our West Palm Beach office, and I'm leading our team on this effort, working with you all to develop the vision for trails here in Bonita. I also just want to introduce the rest of my team, and everyone can just kind of raise their hand so you can find us when we're done with the presentation. I have Brian Ruscher, Daniel Ashworth in the back, Mike Repsch, and John Cato. So they're part of our team. We'll be facilitating the conversation this evening, and you can also obviously talk to any of the city staff here as well throughout the evening and throughout the week. And then, I don't think we mentioned it too, we also want to capture everyone's signature with a sign-in sheet that we'll have at the back if you haven't signed that yet. We just want to get a record of everyone being here. So I'm going to give a presentation that just gives an overview of the scope of the project that we're working on, the schedule for this week, and some things to get you thinking about what makes a great trail, and then what is going to make a great trail in Bonita Springs. And that's what we're here to define this week with you. So we have three main elements to the project, and we're calling it Design It, Build It, Look and Feel, and Where Do We Go Next. And so with the Design It, Build It portion, we're looking specifically at designing a trail along West Terry Street, roughly between US 41, Tamiami Trail, and Pine Road, and near the school along West Terry. We are also developing a park concept for a portion of, or for a property along the corridor that we want some input on in terms of programming that will become a part of the trail and a community amenity. So that's the Design It, Build It. We're going to be taking that all the way through design and construction. And we want your input on the elements of that. The Look and Feel portion is defining what's the vision for trails here in Bonita. What's the experience that you want to create? What's it going to look like? What are the materials? We want to get your input, and we have some different posters where we can get your input to define that vocabulary that we'll use to establish, that look and feel that you all want. And then we'll use that to design the West Terry Street Trail, as well as future segments, which leads us to the Where Do We Go Next. We're going to build this great signature trail. It's going to be amazing along West Terry Street, but that's just one segment. There's lots of places in the community to connect, neighborhoods to connect, schools, parks, other destinations. We want your input on where we go next, what the priorities are for funding. So that's what we want in terms of input for that portion. So this week we are here in kind of an intensive workshop, working with staff, working with you all to work through ideas. We aren't starting from scratch. There are things that have been going on. There are projects that have been programmed, projects that have been constructed, things that are in different phases of conceptual design. So we want to kind of capture all of those and start to arrange them around the West Terry project so that, one, that can get built in the way that you all envision it, and then you can carry that momentum forward for other efforts. So this week, we're kicking off here Tuesday, this evening, hearing from you all. Tomorrow, anytime in the afternoon, from 1 p.m. after, if you have friends that couldn't attend that want to provide input, we'll be here in this room. They can come by and talk with us one-on-one. In the evening, we'll have more of what we call a pin-up. We can kind of share a little more in terms of what we're developing. And then we'll be back on Thursday evening in this room at 5:30 again to share with you how we translated everything that we heard tonight into the vision that we are carrying forward. And so we'll want, did we get it right? Do we need to tweak it? That's the kind of information that we're looking for on Thursday night. And then after that, we'll take all of that information and start designing West Terry Street, developing design guidelines and standards for trails so that you can carry that vision forward and start to also develop a conceptual kind of recommendations and framework. Hey, these are the next segments we think you should look at. These are the considerations. This is the kind of funding you need to line up. It'll be your roadmap going forward, so to speak. So what makes a great trail? It's not just about a path for walking and biking, but it's this experience. It's about connecting people to place, to the places where you want to go, to parks, to schools, to your downtown, and making them connect in a meaningful way, something that provides a quality experience and connects with the type of quality of life that you all want to see here in Bonita. So we kind of break it down into these kind of buckets of experience, sustainable, and accessible, and talk through what that means and what that feels like. In terms of experience, we aren't proposing the big bridge necessarily here, but when you look at this image, you can see that provides a certain amount of wow factor and experience. And so we want to know what your wow factor and your experience is going to be here in Bonita. That's what we want to define this evening. But it also, how do we define that character? These are all different types of informational signs that you can use along a trail in terms of where you are, where you might want to go. There might be kiosks about natural information or historic information. How do you tell that Bonita story with the look and feel of the elements of the trail? And then in terms of accessibility, is it safe? Is it convenient? Is it comfortable? Is it connected to the places that you want to connect? And so, walking along this roadway, this isn't Bonita, but just thinking, this is a multi-lane roadway. It's not easy to cross for someone walking and biking. How do you translate that trail experience across, roadways in a meaningful way? And so we'll be thinking about how do you make those safe and convenient connections and crossings. And lastly, is it sustainable? And not necessarily sustainable from an environmental perspective, which we'll be incorporating, but also, do you all embrace the project? Do you use it? Do you care for it? Do you want to expand it? Do you own it? And is it serving your needs and creating the type of community that you want to? And that's really what we're focused on this evening. So this is one concept that we developed early on when we were trying to win the project. We're going to refine this concept, but just to give you an idea and get you thinking about the different elements that we're going to layer into, particularly the West Terry design project. This is by the pool and the school at the moment, looking west along West Terry Street, and potentially what that might look like in the future. And just to call out some specific elements, there's that wayfinding element that I showed previously. There's the placemaking, the art and public places kind of focus. Sustainable trail design with materials maybe that are sensitive to managing stormwater runoff and things like that. And just kind of this idea of safe routes to schools, places, things that can accommodate the wide range of people that would use the trail in a safe and meaningful way. So like I said, we're going to break back out into groups, but we want to just know what are the can't miss character elements, what are the aha or wow opportunities here in Bonita, and what's the story that you all want to tell with these series of projects. And so we can go back to being around the tables, but the idea and focus for tonight is to have everyone kind of rotate and provide input at each of the tables. And then we'll filter all of that over the coming days and report back to you on Thursday evening about work in progress. And then after that, obviously, like I said, we'll be back regularly throughout the spring and summer providing updates on various elements of the project. So thank you, and we look forward to getting your input.
I just want to make one other quick introduction. Councilmember Mike Gibson was able to join us this evening as well. Thank you. And also, to reiterate, we do have a sign-in sheet. We do, if you can, please make sure that you sign that before you head out. And we also have comment cards in the back. So if you would like to take one with you, you're welcome to fill out more information, or you want to be more detailed. You can either hand that back to us this evening, or you can take it with you, think about it a little bit for longer, and bring the comments back to us as well.
Thank you.
My name is Arlene Hunter. I am the Assistant City Manager for the City of Bonita Springs, and I do see some familiar faces with us from Tuesday evening. This is the conclusion, the evening of our series of open houses and workshops with Alta Design. I would like to introduce Matt Feeney, our Public Works Director, in the back. And we do have our partners here from Lee County Government as well. Dave, thank you for joining us. So this evening you're going to see the beginnings of the information that has been gathered from the public process. We will be coming back most likely sometime in April to City Council with some additional recommendations and procedures. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brad with Alta to begin the wrap-up conclusion this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. How many of you were here at some point this week prior to tonight? Great, thank you. We'll really appreciate all of your input, and for those of you that are new, welcome. I'll give a little bit of a recap and overview of the purpose of why we're here, kind of what we heard, and then walk through with you all how we took what we heard and started to translate that into kind of a vision and recommendations for different elements along West Terry or other portions of the study area that we were looking at. My name is Brad Davis with Alta. As Arlene mentioned, I'm the project manager for our team. I didn't do this alone. I was also supported by our team, Brian in the back, Mike, and John. If you have any questions after the presentation, we'll be standing around. We have some things printed out that you can look at in more detail, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. And then I also just wanted to mention too, in addition to our team, we're also partnered with another firm, Holmontes, and they've been supporting us on the engineering side of the project as well. So just as a recap, there are 3 elements of the project that we're working on right now. The first phase that we're calling Design It, Build It is specifically focusing on West Terry Street, roughly from the fire station to Pine Avenue. And we are looking at designing a trail along the roadway on the north side of the road, which I'll talk about in more detail. The city does have a state grant to fund all or a portion of the project. We are also looking at designing a small park at the entrance to the utility easement, kind of roughly halfway between the West Terry Trail project. So we're looking at taking that all the way through design and construction. The other element is the look and feel element, and that is focused on establishing design standards for trails. So this is going to be the first signature element of trails in Bonita, and what we want to do is document all of the standards and features so that for future phases you all can continue the character and look as you build out the trail network for trails in Bonita. And then lastly, the where do we go next? You're going to build this amazing trail along West Terry. What would the next phases be so that you can over time incrementally expand the trail network to connect more neighborhoods in the city? So this week we were here over 3 days. We started early on Tuesday morning, had lots of meetings with staff, with our team, and with you all over the course of the 3 days. And then we are here at the conclusion to kind of share work in progress. This is kind of a little more input and refinement from you before we leave and take it to more detailed design and come back later this spring for the next phase of input and decision making. So what we heard, we had a great turnout Tuesday evening. We had over 40 people attend. And the key themes that we heard was that there was a lot of excitement about the trail and potential for bike lanes along West Terry. There's a desire to connect neighborhoods that are actually along 41, mainly Pelican Bay and Bonita Bay. And then there's a just general desire to improve, street safety, particularly along the West Terry corridor and key intersections in the study area. So we had you all voting on different things, but just as a highlight, two of the key metrics we were looking at is, we asked you all, who are our intended users? Who are we designing for? And, the light and moderate exercisers were number one, followed by commuters, and then kids and families. And so a lot of what you'll see tonight is focused on how do we design a trail on the street that better accommodates these user groups. And in terms of experience, we also wanted to capture what you all want from a trail system, how it's going to be unique to Bonita. And the top three things that you all voted for was the focus on point-to-point connectivity, basically connecting you all to the places you want to go in the community, adventure in nature, and family fun. So, yeah. So design and build it. So, just a quick overview. Specifically, the red segment is the kind of segment that we're looking at from the fire station to Pine Avenue, and then the I guess it's blue here on the screen is where roughly where the park location is, just to orient yourself. So what we heard specifically about the West Terry design, we heard that we need to create safe streets and intersections, safe crossings, dedicated space for all users, comfortable space for all users. As an example, along the north side of West Terry is a narrow, roughly 5-foot sidewalk, and people walking and biking can't comfortably pass each other. And so how do we create a corridor that is more accommodating for the range of users in the area? And then lastly, kind of goes along with the safe streets and crossings theme, just appropriate vehicle speeds so that it's safer and easier to cross. And then kind of along that theme of connection, just a key theme, consistent theme of connecting people to the different neighborhoods, to the parks, to the schools, and to downtown as well. So just to give you a sense of kind of pulling all of that stuff together and what it might look like along West Terry. So this is existing. This is at where the park location will be. This is potentially what it could be like if you just were to implement the trail and the park element. And then there's an opportunity potentially to also add bike lanes along the corridor as well. And so this just gives you a sense of the character and change out there along the corridor. So specifically looking at different elements, just to kind of hone in on how we can build that character and uniqueness. There's the park entrance here, which I'll talk about more about the park in just a little bit. The wayfinding element and an enhanced transit stop along the corridor. And then the enhanced landscaping that makes it look different than just having a sidewalk with a grass strip. So this is at Harbor Drive. This is a section where there's 2 lanes, one in each direction currently, with a swale on either side. And implementing the trail in the park, have a wider pathway and a planting strip. Along some sections, we might be able to include some street trees. And then there's the potential for, including buffered bike lanes along this stretch as well. And most of this can be accommodated with the existing roadway. It might need to be expanded a little bit to the north, and that's what we're going to be looking at from a technical feasibility perspective after we leave here. And then one of the other things too, just to note, along that theme of safer streets, slower speeds, dedicated, comfortable space, we're actually showing a buffered bike lane here, so it provides a little bit of extra separation between the bike lane and the travel lane to provide a little more comfort for people that are riding their bike on the road. And then also narrowing the travel lanes down for vehicles from 11 feet to 10 feet. It just helps slow traffic down a little bit through the corridor. So also along some of the stretches, there's a turn lane, widens out a little bit. Along this stretch, you have similar on either side, a 5-foot sidewalk and the swale. Again, what it might look like with the pathway added, and then potentially here you could keep the turn lane along this stretch. Because of the right-of-way constraints, we can only get the bike lane in along this stretch. So still having that dedicated space. And then one of the things we heard was providing safe crossings along specific locations along the corridor. And we've identified 3 locations, and they align with the bus stops. And so it provides a few enhanced locations that people on the south side of the roadway can cross. And we're actually recommending raised crossings, which would add an additional traffic calming element, provide more visibility and comfort for pedestrians crossing the street. And like I mentioned, it need to be located in proximity to the transit stops. So in terms of park design, the things we heard was create a safe park and create a neighborhood amenity, and in terms of elements, providing universal access, shade, a place to rest, and some play elements. And then I added just at the bottom, from a technical consideration, we need to preserve utility vehicle access, and there's potential for it to be a trailhead in the future. And so we want to make sure that we preserve that element and that you all have options in the future. So we have the park concepts that we started with this week that you can look at later, but this is what we've refined based on all of your input, and I'll just go through some of the elements now. There's potential for some picnic areas or some places for some universal play equipment, which I'll show some examples of that. Preserving the utility vehicle access through the corridor. Providing a pergola that could have some shade and seating underneath it. Shade trees with seating on one side of the plaza element. Some bike racks where people can lock up either at the transit station or if you're just wanting to stop and go to have a picnic. The trail that would be built, and then the enhanced transit stop. So these are just some images of the different elements that could be included, just to give you an idea of look and feel and function, and materials as well. So look and feel. So again, what we heard, you all wanted a unique character and user experience for your trail, something that was different, and you kind of knew that you were on a trail, felt comfortable and convenient, and so tying it back to that user experience, we took all of that information that we collected from you all and started to translate it into different character elements. We're going to be refining these along with a lot of other elements, making material selections and selections for benches and trash cans and things like that. But these are wayfinding concepts. They're pedestrian oriented towards, you know, trail users that are going at the speed of someone walking or biking. And so we want to get information from you all tonight in terms of what you like. And the main focus here is not so much on the color, but more on kind of the shape, character, materials. So the colors can be mixed and matched in a lot of ways, but we really want to focus on kind of the form. So we want your input on that. And just so you can kind of look at it a little bit more, and I can talk about the different elements, there's information kiosks that could have, you know, different types of information about natural features or other things. There's an area map type kiosk. Directional signage, you know, go this way to downtown or this way to the school. Trailhead elements that can, you know, highlight, you know, this is, you know, such and such trailhead. Regulatory signs, this one, you know, just says, you know, watch out or slow down if you're coming to a transition place that you might have more traffic. And then mile markers or confirmation markers, you know, mile 1, mile 2, mile 3, so you know how far you've gone. So where do we go next? So we heard from you all that kind of similarly to the West Terry Street, you wanted us to continue to carry these themes to other elements of the Terry corridor and other areas north as well. So carrying those themes forward, we see a real opportunity to do a phase 1 strategy of, rather than building a bunch of disconnected elements that, you know, might connect over time, building out one corridor along Terry. You have a real opportunity to connect multiple neighborhoods, schools, several parks, and all to downtown as well, where you've already, you know, started to focus on that kind of pedestrian and bike-oriented network. One of the other things, oh, and then I'd also say too that you know, this would extend out to Bonita Grand Drive and would also provide an opportunity to connect to the Crew trail system, which provides, you know, an extensive amount of natural trails. So again, connecting the neighborhoods to all the different amenities and that theme of connecting to nature as well. Additionally, we also looked at an alternative alignment to Terry Street, and that was part of our charge with this project, was looking at how can we provide a connection from the neighborhoods kind of east of Old 41 over to the west side of the railroad tracks, particularly for accommodating the school kids in a way that could avoid the intersection at Old 41 and Terry Street. So we looked at a few different route options, and, you know, we can talk about all the different elements, but just in summary, we've really zeroed in on the option B, which, you know, comes up Pine here and then over on Pauling Lane, mainly because it provides the most direct route and connection between the neighborhoods, would be the most intuitive from a network perspective. And it connects the neighborhoods and parks that we want to connect. These other options kind of dead end into Old 41, or in the case of option C, goes kind of significantly out of the way and doesn't really connect the neighborhoods in a kind of convenient, you know, route option. So the key wild card here is being able to have access across the railroad. And so that would require negotiation with the railroad company. So the city is working with the city of Estero and a national nonprofit that focuses specifically on negotiating you know, rail to trail conversions. And so there's an opportunity there to make that connection, as well as convert that rail corridor to a trail. But that may require some time and additional coordination. So potentially a short-term, potentially a long-term option. So we're just kind of keeping the options on the table at this point. And then lastly, we've identified a series of kind of phase 2 options, and mainly these are the ones that are more complicated and require more regional coordination with FDOT, such as potential trail along 41, or work with the county or railroad company. And just one other note too with this as well is that that rail corridor, as well as Bonita Beach Road, has been identified and is part of the Florida Greenways and Trails priority system. And so the state maintains a vision for a statewide trail system that would connect all the different parts of the state, and the alignment that comes through Bonita Springs here is along those corridors. And so long-term, planning-wise, we want to continue to make that focus that the trail system, the local trail system, supports that larger statewide vision. So that's it in terms of presentation. I just wanted to quickly say a few things about next steps. We want to answer any questions that you may have this evening. We'll break after the presentation and we can talk with you one-on-one at each of the different stations. We're going to take that input tonight and go back to our offices and refine all these concepts and come back in April 18th, right? To present to City Council more detailed designs, as well as some cost estimates to start to figure out what to implement in what phase, and make those decisions about how to move forward with design and construction. So we'll break, and if you have a specific question, we can answer it for you one-on-one. So thank you.